My lashes are hitting the glass.
I hate when that happens.
It's a Ziegler trait.
That happens regularly for me.
1, 2, 3. Hi everyone, this is Sara Quill. Welcome.
So sorry you have lipstick on your teeth. Alright, action.
Hi everyone, this is Sara Quill, and this is the newest episode of Therapy is a Drag. I am joined by my parents. This is Suzanne and Jonathan. They birthed me 26 years and 2 days ago. And for my birthday, I came down to visit them, and they so graciously have hosted us and have agreed to be on this episode of Therapy is a Drag. I just said your names and gave 2 identifiers, that you are husband and wife and that you are my parents, but if you guys want to say your name, your pronouns, and any other identifiers that you want to share with the audience.
I'm Suzanne. I am she, her, and mom.
Mom.
I'm Jonathan, and I'm he, him, and dad.
Wow. Any other identifiers? You guys play tennis? You guys play golf sometimes? You're dog parents?
Oh yeah, we've got Mr. Jimmy right here, who looks like he's enjoying himself.
He really is. He's staring at me because he doesn't know
He doesn't recognize you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my parents were the first people to recommend therapy to me when I was in high school, so this is a very overdue interview, I think, because I think that if I were going in chronological order of influence, it would have been my parents who got me into therapy. And over the years, they have helped a lot of people find help for mental illness and mental health, and they're very big advocates and proponents for mental health, everything, and I'm really excited to have them. And we'll just jump into the first question.
Sure.
Are either one of you guys currently in therapy?
I am not currently in therapy, but
I am.
You are?
And she occasionally joins me.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Do you like your therapist?
I love my therapist. Yeah.
Mom, do you like his therapist?
I do. He's had his therapist for 15 maybe plus years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
didn't know
something that he's graduated and come back and had tune-ups, and
That's what we call it. Every once in a while, I just feel like I need a tune-up, and then sometimes she'll say, "Okay, it's time. You need a tune-up."
and she's great because she listens to both of us, and as dad wants me to be there, invites me.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
We were talking about how the tune-ups are sometimes necessary, and that sometimes it's therapy isn't just for you, it's for other people. So mom saying, "Oh, it's time for a tune-up" is pretty
telling.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good. Are there any attributes of your current therapist that you particularly admire or appreciate?
So when I first started looking for a therapist, I had some preconceived notions, I think, and I really didn't want anyone who was like what my father's generation or my mother's generation was like, an old
boomer
school. Yeah, well, somebody who is more like the traditional image that I think everybody has in their mind of a stereotypical therapist, like the couch and the old guy with the glasses and the
analyst.
The analyst style.
You're facing the opposite way, and you have no idea what he's doing back there.
Yeah. And so I looked, and I literally said to Mom, I really believe that I should have a female therapist, because then she'll call me out on my bullshit. And that was kind of what I was looking for. And I mean, honestly, it was, I think I only interviewed 2 or started with 2, and I found Kirsten.
Good.
And she was awesome.
How did you find this therapist? Was it online, through referrals from your doctor's office?
So at that time, I believe we had a list that was provided by the insurance provider. And I started at the top, and kind of looked at their profiles online, and then I called 2 or 3 of them, and the first one I could get in to see I didn't like, and then I found the second one, and that was the one I stuck with.
Nice.
Yeah.
But at that time, the internet wasn't as
Prevalent.
and also it had to be someone local because it was all in person.
All in person,
there
yeah.
Was
There was no
telehealth.
telehealth, no.
No.
Yeah. That's a obstacle that not a lot of people face in this generation. It's been so accessible to all of us, and I mean, even when I was in therapy in high school, she was down the street, and I feel like with insurance companies and just the type of therapy that's being offered right now, it's very hard to find someone in person and local, because I mean, I think everyone I've interviewed has only done online before, which is kind of crazy.
Do you think that's a pre-COVID, post-COVID kind of thing, or is it even just generational?
I think so. I think that during COVID, they kind of opened up, they kind of became more lax on who could, give therapy in different states and stuff. And it just became more accessible to people. And then the efficacy studies show that online therapy is just as effective as in-person therapy. But yeah, post-COVID, I think it's just the norm. I mean, I met with not my current therapist, but the one before. I met her in person once because she was in Sacramento. But other than that, it's been all online since 2020.
And when Dad first got involved too, it was a financial thing too, because insurances weren't as accepting and open to it. We did some couples counseling before we got married, and it was financially prohibitive. We luckily had someone who was an advocate for us and helped us through that, but financially it's hard if you don't have insurance.
And I feel like insurance has been just from what I've learned in school is that you really have to have a diagnosis or give a diagnosis to insurance companies, or else it won't be reimbursed from the clinician standpoint. But I mean, that also negatively affects the client as well, because if you're not given a diagnosis, sometimes your insurance won't continue to cover it on your end too.
Right.
And a lot of analysts with psychodynamic or psychoanalytical don't even take insurance because they don't necessarily believe in the diagnosis aspect of things. So
because of the label, as it were,
I guess. Yeah, I feel like that kind of therapist is kind of being phased out, but there are some there's people that still like it. Yeah, it doesn't appeal to me as a future clinician to do the analyst thing. So are there any specific modalities that you've done with your therapist that you enjoy more than others? CBT, DBT?
We talked a little bit about our couples therapy.
Which is NLP actually. It was a lot of it. I mean, our therapist back then was very much, he was kind of like he gave us a hand signal for Mom and me, if we were having a hard time or we were fighting or something like that and trying to figure out a way to get out of the moment. He just told us, do this, and it was kind of interesting because it's a total state change. But
was it like a timeout button, basically?
Yeah, in essence. I mean, and we still use it as a signal of affection now. I mean, it's more like, we're doing pretty well, and we don't have the need to necessarily use it as a timeout.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. But I will say that, with my current therapist, it's mostly just I spend a lot of time just venting. Just kind of like you described in one of your previous episodes, where you're like the character from the Wild Thornberries with the dumping blah blah blah. And then the last 5 minutes, it's like, oh, we have 5 minutes left. Here's the issue I kind of want to work on. But what normally happens is I'll start off with the issue this week is, or the thing that's bugging me. And I'll say, and this is how I feel about it. And she'll kind of reflect a little bit. she's really intuitive because she's known me as long as she has.
Yeah.
Where she can come and say, okay, so I think you should focus on this and not this, and but really there haven't been a whole lot of other modalities that we've tried. She did have me doing some exercises early on.
Like homework?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just to kind of go back and kind of reevaluate what my thought process was about things.
And triggers.
And
different ways
challenges to kind of calm myself.
Yeah.
Because there were so many things that were silly. I mean, as recently as a couple of years ago, like right after my mother passed away, I brought back a few things from the house. And, one of the things was a stupid silicone spatula. And it got put in a dishwasher by somebody, and I flipped. And I couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
And all it was this stupid red silicone spatula. And I talked to her about it for literally 3 sessions to try and figure out why I was so angry that it had been destroyed.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like, you place some sense of your past and your past trauma on that object.
Yeah.
And since it got destroyed and you didn't get to destroy it, you feel like it was taken away from you.
Yeah. You didn't have the opportunity. That's exactly
what I felt. And I was like, oh, okay, it's that simple.
Yeah. I feel like with 15 years with this person, they know you so well that, you went through 3 sessions and then you got to the point where it was like, why is this affecting me? And she was like, well, I've known you for 15 years. I think this is why.
Yeah. And that was the interesting thing too, because there have been times where I'm like, I don't know why I'm so bothered. I don't know what it is that is so frustrating. And she'll say, here's what it is.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. She lines it out.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of neat too, because she's seen him for so many years that it may be, being a parent of young children, or, a work stress, or, different things generationally have changed over.
She's seen you through thick and thin.
Yeah. And I got to see her in person for the first time since we moved about 4 months ago.
That's awesome.
In the area where she is, so it's kind of nice.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it was, and it worked out. It's just one of those things where I said, is it okay if I come and see you in person? She's like, absolutely. So,
that's good.
Cool. Yeah.
That's super cool. I think that by Jimmy, I think that this is such a different perspective than so many of the other people I've talked to, because 15 years, that's a very significant portion of, at least, my life, your life too. Yeah. Whereas a lot of the other people, like, I interviewed a couple people that have 10 years of experience with therapy, and I'm around that point myself too, but with different therapists. And you've obviously found someone that really understands you, that you have this great relationship and attunement to, that she's able to understand what, your thought processes are before you even, finish your sentence.
Yeah.
Which is...
It's a trust that's been built.
Yeah.
And I won't say that it's, I joke with your mom that I said, I think she knows me better than I know myself to an extent, because there's some things that we don't talk about, obviously.
Yeah.
But at least when it comes to the triggers and the frustrations and the anger and the anger management and things like that I do have times that I need to deal with, she can see it. Just like mom can.
I was going to ask, 15 years with the same therapist, is there a noticeable change in Dad before and after a session that you've noticed?
Certainly. He takes more time, in thought process as to why he's feeling the way he is.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be as simple as you're tired.
Yeah.
He travels a lot and things like that. So.
Yeah.
But he's more aware of, oh, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Or no, actually, something really happened that's bothering me. And we should talk about it.
Yeah, being hangry seems to be like a current recurring theme.
Yeah. I do the same thing. Paige does it. We all do it.
Yeah.
And I think that brings up a really good point, is that you can go your entire life experiencing those things, whether it's you're tired, you're hangry, whatever, and you never really learn to cope with those things. And therapy does such a good job at taking you out of that moment of anger or frustration and try to figure out what it is. And I think that coping mechanisms are like the one thing that is universally known about therapy, is that you learn ways to cope with, you know, external sources of frustration, internal, and everything like that. And that was a really good description of how that actually comes to fruition.
Yeah.
As, you know, 15 years ago, you get hungry and start, you know, throwing stuff around. Not that I ever think that happens, but now you can recognize, like, when was the last time I ate? And then you can take yourself and go get a burger or something.
We joke, you know, which of the hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
Because it's true. I mean, especially
You've got
like,
shelter. You got.
Exactly.
But especially like working, you know, working and being, not the traveling so much, but the work, being in the office constantly, and not even realizing that it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't had breakfast yet.
Yeah.
So that's a key.
I get that from you, I guess.
Maybe.
I do that all the time.
And I used to do it a lot more than I do now.
Yeah.
Now it's more a health thing than anything else. But I will say that, you know, one of the things that my therapist really does understand about me at this point is that she knows the living situation. She knows the most of the time she knows the work situation. She understands that the travel is a stressor. She knows the dog situation.
Jimmy.
He's so cute right now, but yeah, anyway. And then she also understands that I have a bunch of layers of complexity in my own right? And I'm not an easy person to live with. I have my quirks, I have my idiosyncrasies, but more importantly, I also have my own agenda a lot of the times, and sometimes I don't share it with Mom, and sometimes I don't share it with anybody.
Put them back.
Yeah. Are they too dark? Or are they bugging your...
Ow, oh my god. My lash, help me!
They're a little tight.
Oh, okay. So, in any case, yeah, she's been around a lot. She's also been around a lot of good stuff too, which is nice.
Good.
Because generally what I do is, if I know I need the tune-up, or if Mom says I need the tune-up, then it's usually something has happened.
Yeah.
Like when my mom passed, or even when my dad died back in 2013. I spent a couple of sessions with her then, because the trauma around that was sincerely severe, because my brothers and I and Mom were all in the room when he died, like when he actually died. And some great things happened at that moment, in that, you know, I made the realization that he was free, but he wasn't, you know, in pain anymore.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had this situation where my brothers were sort of angry still and frustrated, and of course my mom was not happy at all for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to process it at that point. So
it was a very unique situation that you know, our family was in around that time because of the relationships that we had with that side of the family. So I can't imagine what it was like for you in that situation. You know, I wasn't there, but I knew of the situation.
You were pretty young.
I was 13,
Yeah.
I was playing Black Ops 2.
Good job.
When Mom called me upstairs and told me to come up because my grandpa had passed away. And I was upset because I had to leave the game and I was doing really well. And then I was upset for another reason.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, you've talked about how good the relationship is with your therapist, so I don't know if you're going to have an answer to this question, but do you have any therapy horror stories? Doesn't have to be your experience or Mom's experience. It could be your experience with me in therapy.
Well, I'll let Mom start, see if she has anything.
I think we had an experience with someone that you were seeing, Justin, in that they kind of told us as parents that maybe there weren't as many things going on with you at a time where we thought they were. And they're like, oh, those crazy parents, you know, a child who's doing really well in school, has friends, has a job, couldn't possibly be going through anything else.
Oh.
And as parents, we're like, you're not able to see something that we feel really is there. And it ended up that there was something there. And afterward, kind of having to go back to that therapist, and you don't want to go to, you didn't see this.
Or the I told you so moment.
And it changed your life by having that be addressed. Yeah. So it was frustrating not being heard.
And I would honestly say that your mother has a sense, not just with us and not just with you and your sister, but others. I mean, she knows. She has this innate sense of understanding that something severe, something, even if it's positive, she knows. Yeah. And that's the irony, right? It's like the mommy radar. She's got it, like to the nth degree. And it's I know it's been honed over the years, unfortunately, because of some of the other relationships that mom has with some of her friends, as well as some of the family. But when this situation that she's talking about came up, I was kind of oblivious to a little bit of it too. And she's like, no, don't you? And then you start to put the things together, and you do really realize that that person has no clue. Yeah.
I'm glad that you guys felt that way too, because that's the therapist I always talk about when I share my horror stories. Because there wasn't a lot going on in the room, and I was going through a lot during that time period, and there was a lot that I wasn't sharing with you guys or anyone. Right. And we would just kind of we'd just sit there, and she would, ask me very, vague questions, and I'd give vague answers because I didn't know what she was looking for. There was no progress that was made in that room, and ultimately the most progress that I made was when I was in the facility in 2017, and that was, the first time a therapist had actually paid attention to what I was saying. Yeah. And that was the first time that we all did therapy together. Yeah. And I think that therapist in that facility was the person that we needed at that time, and I didn't get that from the first therapist. And I don't think I've gotten that from a few other therapists that I've seen, but the one I'm with now, I definitely think she has. She doesn't let me just get away with saying things and then trying to ask a silly question afterwards. Right. She's like, well, let me reflect back to you what you just said really quick. So true. But yeah, that is a...
That's funny you say that too, because that's one of the things that, like I said, mine, she calls me out. Yeah. But she'll also, you get me humor from both sides, but you get a lot of your dry humor from me. I'll just say something so deadpan, and she'll look at me and she'll start laughing, and she'll say, do you really mean that? And I'm like, no, I was just trying to stop the conversation. Yeah.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. So the deflection happens, but she'll come right back to it, and she'll dig in. Like I said something in my last session, which wasn't too long ago, where I said, I really want to focus on something that I think is an issue, and she literally said, no, hold on, you're trying to please your mom. I'm trying to please mom, and you're not thinking about it from why it's important to you. You're just doing it to appease her. And I said, no, I don't think so. I think I'm afraid that if I do something like that again, she's going to be pissed. And she's like, no, that's not it either. Yeah.
Redirect.
Yeah. So she's like, okay, think about it a little deeper. And I'm like, okay, so maybe it brings back memories from my childhood. And that's exactly what happened. We went down that rabbit hole for another session. And our next session, I think we're going to continue talking about it, because she wrote in her notes that we're going to pick it up where we left off. Because I said, I really feel like this was something that I never resolved when I was a child. And she's like, let's dig deeper into that, because that may be explaining why you're so angry.
Yeah. So. I like when therapists hold us accountable and also recognize when there's more to be said or more to be discussed, because something that I like to tell people is like the end of your session doesn't mean that's the end of the conversation.
Right.
Because if you're with a therapist who is taking notes and you have a good relationship and there's that level of attunement where you can gauge the room, for lack of a better phrase, then you're going to come into the next session, maybe the first 15 minutes are you talking about your week, but then it's, all right, let's bring it back to the problem that we didn't finish talking about. But I like that horror story because that one's actually scary.
Yeah,
I mean, not that the other ones that I've had come out on the show aren't scary, but there was a little bit of humor to them. Not so much with this one. It's a negligent therapist.
And we were worried.
Yeah.
We were seriously worried. Seriously worried.
Yeah.
So.
I always like to end with one good question, and then I let you guys ask me questions. And the good question is, if you could tell someone who's on the fence about going to therapy just one thing or two things to encourage them or inspire hope or instill, some motivation, what would it be?
I think there's a point where people think that they're not being heard in whatever situation they're in, and that there is somebody out there who will listen and pick up on more than maybe the people around you.
Yeah.
And so there's always hope.
Yeah.
And like you've talked in some of your sessions too, that finding the right person to talk to.
Yeah.
Don't just pick up the phone
settle.
Or two and tell
Shop
somebody
around.
that there's a groove.
Yeah, and I would just add that you have to try it. You have to try.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter what anybody else says or does. Yeah. You have to try.
Yeah.
And if it's you feeling badly about a situation, about your own situation, whatever it is, you have to try whatever it takes to get out of it.
Yeah.
Because the negativity and the trauma responses and things like that are all part of the rationale for thinking that you're not going to be heard, or like Mom said, or that you're not going to find the right person. Just, you got to trust in yourself to take that leap. That'd be my biggest thing.
Yeah, I think we live in a time where therapy has been, destigmatized to an extent, but there are still people that are frightened about the reactions of others around them and let that dictate whether or not they, do something to better themselves. And I had a friend who was in a relationship that wasn't going so well, and therapy was offered as a way to try to, reconnect and find ways to communicate with each other. And I sat down with him for an hour or so, and I was like, listen, just give it a shot. Give it one session. See how it feels. If you hate it, you don't have to go back, but if you kind of like it, give it another session or two. And what ended up happening was he went to the first session and came back and was ranting and raving about how amazing it was, because he was like, we sat there for an hour and a half, and we talked about all the things that were going on. We didn't yell once. And I was like, yeah, that is therapy. That's couples counseling. That's why people do it.
Yeah.
People aren't just throwing money at people for no reason.
That's awesome.
And so there are parts of life that are hard.
Yeah.
Whether it's alcohol, whether it's relationships, whether it's job, those things don't go away.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to deal with those and don't get support in that, those are going to keep coming up. So you learn a lot of things. Those bumps in the road are a little smoother.
Yeah,
a little happier.
Like you alluded to.
You can find joy.
Yeah, you alluded to it. The tools to know how to, or the approaches to handle things a little differently.
Yeah.
That's kind of what has been the most helpful for me. And, even with Mom, she's very intuitive. She knows when I'm not doing well. And, it's an amazing, happy stance, I think, when you do find the right thing. I mean, that's the big key, is just making sure that you're gambling or you're betting on yourself in a positive way. And so what do you have to lose?
Yeah, exactly. You guys aren't too hip on the drag stuff.
I was trying to cheat, like I was on drag queen, and I was going to just say one, and then I forgot.
There's one right answer, and I'm sitting right here.
Sarah Quill?
Yeah.
Actually still like Jolene Cuisine.
She's dead.
Your alter ego. The former.
Yeah.
The explanation of the change was very...
Yeah, it was very appropriate. So
I'm glad you liked it.
Totally respect.
Yeah.
that.
Jolene Cuisine is a very creative name.
Yeah.
I don't remember what you were saying.
I was saying that seeing your journey through therapy was, such an incredible journey, and so proud of who you are.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in without you guys and your support and your dedication to my mental and physical well-being, and you're the best cheerleaders that I could ever ask for, and you guys have seen me through my highs, my lows, my different occupational endeavors, and you've supported me with everything that you guys have got in every endeavor, and I'm so happy that you guys are so supportive of me in grad school and drag and my relationships, and I cannot thank you guys enough for everything you do for me and everything that you've done for me.
Well, it's been, I would just say it's a life journey, right? Mm-hmm. And everything that you've done extremely positively and intently, mm-hmm. and well. And like Mom says, I'm extremely proud too. And I don't care. I've never cared what you decide to do, as long as you do it to the best of your ability. And I know that sounds cliche, but you've always done that. You've always gone out there and tried so hard to do.
I say it hasn't always been easy, so you make it look easy.
You make it look easy, and that's the thing. Yeah.
I'm glad you guys think said that. Sometimes it doesn't feel as easy, but
we get it. That's
you make
life.
it look easy,
and Jimmy says
sharing everything that you have has been really a blessing to see and to give back to others.
I'm glad you guys like it.
Yeah, absolutely, and we love you.
I love you
very much.
Too.
Very much.
Any other questions before we all start crying?
No,
but you do have to take us to a real drag show.
Yeah, that would be nice.
We're going to do that.
Yeah,
we'll do it,
and we'll come prepared with more ones.
we'll do it in Sac or San Francisco.
Yeah.
The one in San Francisco we went to is really fun.
That's awesome.
And there was good food.
Yeah.
So.
And I would say the only question that I have is there any reason purple is the color?
I just like purple.
Okay.
And
pink.
Okay.
Lilac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the gauges are pink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I got ripped off at Spencer's, but it was my birthday. I had to spend a little bit of money on myself.
Okay. Fair enough. And what's the latest tattoo count?
I mean, how much do we have time?
Okay, question for another time.
No.
Question for another time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, some other time.
I'll tally it and put it on the screen.
Okay.
Because that's a little bit. That's a lot to ask.
That's all good.
How much does this count? Is this one or
I don't know. How many sessions did that one take?
A few under there.
Yeah. Do I count the ones that are under there?
Of course you do.
Yeah.
I think it's important to say that the whole family does have the same tattoo.
Yeah. I need to get mine redone though.
Yeah.
Because it's there.
It's
there.
It's still there.
Though.
It's there.
Yeah,
I just didn't want anyone to copy me. That's why I got it covered.
Okay. That's fair. Jimmy says so.
Yep.
All
right. Well, thank you guys so much for agreeing to this.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that I brought all my swag so we could do it in person instead of over Zoom.
Yeah, and hopefully everything works. These are...
Yeah. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for the mics. I hope they work.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Well, bye, everyone. Thanks for checking out the video. Bye.